The Runaway Scrape stopped here, in an oak grove on the banks of Buffalo Bayou. The water was behind him. A couple of miles of prairie lay in front. Behind it, the Bay of San Jacinto, and between the Texans and the water, Santa Anna and his Mexican army. Houston knew he was there, and Santa Anna knew Houston was here. On the 20th, he played with them, sent a cannon out to shell the woods, but one of the twin sisters spoke first. It was said she shot off horseshoes, and the first shot was a ringer. The gun carriage of the Mexican army was damaged. Night was coming on, and everyone was too tired for any more fighting. The armies bedded down and slept. Houston slept till very late the next morning, exhausted.
General Sam, I've got some more men.
It was 9 o'clock in the morning when Deaf Smith came into camp with word that General KHOU-TV was arriving with reinforcements. That would give the Mexicans about 1,300 men. The Texans had about 800. These are figures that rise and fall with every different account of history you read, but suffice to say, these Texans were severely outnumbered. There are those who argue to this very day that Sam Houston had planned to run again, that's why Santa Anna waited. Others will say, no, Houston was just using his Indian smart, waiting for the right moment. The right moment came at 3:30 on the afternoon of April 21st. No military historian has ever fully explained how what happened. The cavalry moved out to create a diversion. The Texans crawled or walked through the grass of this stretch of meadow till they were within 25 yards of the Mexican breastwork. There was high grass here then and much more timber. The twin sisters were moved close to the Mexican breastworks. Of the 5 men who fired the cannons, 2, Tom Green and Ben McCulloch, became generals in the Confederacy. Temple Overton Harris was a husband of the great niece of Mrs. Andrew Jackson, the son of a distinguished Virginia family. Richardson Scurry went on to serve in Congress. John Wade was a printer who once studied beside a young apprentice named Horace Greeley. It was broad daylight, open country. Still the army moved on, holding their rifles ready. The Kentucky Company carried a flag with a rather bawdy version of liberty on it. What an army it was. There were English, Irish, Scots, Mexicans, yes, Mexicans, French, Germans, Italians, Poles, blacks, yes, blacks, even Yankees. And the army had a company band, a free man named Dick from New Orleans who beat a drum, and the fifers. And as incredible as it seems, they played the only song they knew as they marched into history's shortest, bloodiest, and most significant battle. An Irish love song of rather suggestive nature, "Will you come to the bower I have shaded for you?"
Player number 1.
The man on the white horse waved his hat and the twin sisters spoke. It was a rout. The slaughter at the breastworks was carried out by wild men, not soldiers. There was Robert Justus Kleberg, LLB, University of Göttingen in Germany. George Erath, a product of Viennese schools, a private that day. Juan Seguin commanding the company of Mexicans. They fired and they ran screaming, "Remember the Alamo, remember Goliad." The Mexicans tried to reach their guns neatly stacked beside their tents, but the nightmare of reality was upon them. The battle itself lasted but 18 minutes. When the morning started, Mirabeau Bonaparte Lamar was a Georgia private. By the end of the day, he was a colonel. 10 days later, he was named Secretary of War. A month later, he was a Major General, and later became the first elected Vice President of the Republic of Texas and its second president. Not bad for a man named Mirabeau Bonaparte, who had a brother named Lucius Quintus Cincinnatus and another named Losivar Legrand and a cousin named Gazaway Bug Lamar. The killing that went on for the rest of the day and into the night was for Bowie and Travis and Fannin and the others. Texas figures that day say the Mexican Army lost 630 killed, 208 wounded, and 730 prisoners. That is, incidentally, 268 more men than the Mexicans had, but that doesn't seem to matter. 6 Texans were killed and 24 were wounded. One was Houston, who was shot in the ankle. Santa Anna got away, only to be found dressed in a private's uniform the next day at Vince's Bridge. His silk shorts gave him away, as did the other soldiers yelling, "El Presidente." So Houston received the Napoleon of the West lying on a blanket beneath a tree on the edge of the battleground. Old Deaf Smith craning in to hear what was said. According to Marcus James, Santa Anna said, "I am General Antonio López de Santa Anna. I place myself at the disposal of the brave General Houston." General Santa Anna, indeed. Take a seat. General, glad to see you. That man may consider himself born to no common destiny who has conquered the Napoleon of the West, and it is now for him to be gracious to the vanquished. Houston looked at Santa Anna for a long time and simply said, "You should have remembered that at the Alamo." So it was over, and Texas had won her freedom. I said earlier that America had won the West at the Battle of San Jacinto, and that indeed is true. For a new republic was born, and 10 years later, Texas became a state. The resulting acquisition of land equaled over half of the existing area of the United States. Let me show you. Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, Nevada, Utah, then parts of Wyoming, Colorado, Kansas, and Oklahoma. David G. Burnett was the chief provisional officer of Texas when San Jacinto came around, and he and Sam Houston just never quite got along. In the flush of victory over the win, some of the locals were still embarrassed about the Runaway Scrape. Somehow they forgot that Sam Houston is a fellow who was leading them then and decided to blame it on Burnett. He was under a great deal of pressure, so he decided to call an election to do 3 things. 1, to approve a new constitution for the state. 2, to decide whether or not Texas should be annexed into the United States. And 3, to name a new president for the country. Well, Sam Houston was away recovering from his San Jacinto wounds at that time, and Stephen Austin immediately said he would run. Henry Smith, who had been a wartime governor, said he also would run. And sweet Miss Anna Roguet suggested Sam should get in the race. Didn't take very much prodding, and he decided to enter and indeed won in a landslide.